Another important component of nutrient cycling phenomena in the tropics are termites. Termites are abundant in tropical and subtropical regions, and they occupy very extensive areas in the humid tropics. A lot of you are familiar with wood-eating termites, but they're termites that eat not only wood, but leaves and soil. Surprisingly, there are more than 2,600 species of termites around the planet. And here in the tropical humid forest in Costa Rica, termites are very abundant. Termites contribute very immensely. Look at the nest in here. They greatly contribute to the nutrient cycling of tropical forests by simply chewing on leaves. These particular termites that we're looking at right here are what we call leaf litter termites. That means that they feed on leaves. In order to be able to digest cellulose from dead leaves on the ground, these termites chew up these leaves, but they have a partner inside their hindguts, in their bellies, which help them break these cellulose compounds of leaves into sugar molecules that ultimately will bring nutrition to the colony. Termites also feed on dirt or soils, and they help incorporate into the soil, as the soil passes through the digestive system of the termite, nitrogen and phosphorus that will incorporate essential nutrients back to the soil, and of course will help with a very good film of nutritional compounds to forest floors, as well as aerating, bring air, oxygenation to tropical forest soils. Termites are interesting. These insects are extremely ancient. These are old insects, if you will. Their closest relatives are cockroaches and praying mantises, and they are super common in the tropics, but of course they have enemies that will control their populations. If, for example, if one clears the forest and turns forest into pasture fields, what you are going to do by doing that is to increase the number or the number of termites per unit area you find in an open field, like in a pasture. Termites, by doing their metabolic processes, by just feeding and excreting plant material, they release to the atmosphere hydrogen, methane, and by doing so, of course, they are helping the greenhouse effect. By clearing up rainforest and by increasing the number of termites per unit area, what people in the tropics are doing is, of course, to a certain extent, is to increase the greenhouse effect that we are all producing to our planet. Perhaps you have heard or you have seen on documentaries or seen that personally yourselves in a visit to the tropics, the charismatic leafcutter ants, something that everyone wants to see, especially when they're at work. Leafcutters also contribute immensely to the aeration, to the oxygen uptake that poor oxygen tropical soils tend to have. And to obtain that, termites, as you can see, leafcutter ants, as you can see right here, when they build their nests, they dig out soil from underground and accumulate all those soil particles to create huge mounds, as you can see right here, that will mix with decomposing vegetation and other detritus in the long run, making the soil or renovating the soil in the long run. Leafcutter ants also carry leaves, which is an essential component of the diet of the leafcutter. By bringing in the leaves of certain plant matter they collect as they travel through the forest, and once inside the ground, because these ants live underground, and then they build this huge and very complex network of tunnels underground, and then they have special compartments inside these tunnels or inside these huge nests where they chew up the leaves in order to culture a fungi, which is ultimately what the ants are feeding on. But they contribute very interestingly to facilitate and improve soil qualities in tropical rainforests. In the tropics as well as in the temperate zone, many plants and trees live in intimate association with fungi. Some are very obvious, some are very evident, some you can see, and some are more inconspicuous. You don't see them very often, but collectively these fungi are called mycorrhizae or mycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza is in association with approximately 80% of the plants we find in tropical rainforests and temperate zones. And there's one pretty interesting example of one right on the ground. Look at it and see how interesting this particular fungi looks like. Is the one in the center kind of whitish, and it looks like a white leaf, but it actually isn't. It's actually part of these mycorrhizae, decomposing leaves. Where mycorrhiza is more obvious, of course, you can see the mycelium inside, or the mycelium of the mycorrhiza, I would say, is for the most part inside the plant root. And of course the mycorrhiza will this interesting relationship between the fungi and the plant will help the mycorrhiza use some of the plant photosynthesis process as part of their food, and of course the mycorrhiza will help the plant in the uptake of minerals from the forest floor or forest litter. Interestingly, and it's been studied here in the tropics, many trees that depend on mycorrhiza have poorly developed root hairs, and in order to replace these, if you make a close inspection to the root system of some of these trees, you will see that fungal strands may substitute the missing hair roots, which is interesting. Most mycorrhizal fungi are from a phylum called Glomeronchomycota or Glomeromycota, and are termed vesicular or arbuscular mycorrhiza, and shrub-like, and it's because they look like a tiny little tree. Ectomycorrhizae are essential to many dominant tree species of temperate zone forest. But when you come to the tropics, you don't see these very often. In fact, you don't see them pretty much at all, except if you go to the oak forest up in the highlands above 8,000 to 10,000 feet, where mushrooms in the genus Boletus and Amanitas tend to be common and associated with the roots of oaks up there. But mycorrhiza can also be found in the roots of certain species of orchids and epiphytes in tropical forest. Remember that mycorrhiza is essential in the uptake of phosphorus and other nutrients that tend to be limited in tropical soils.